The presenting sponsor of Moontower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends, and thanks for listening to Ray Romano's Moontower Soccer. It's an off week for Austin this week, so we're going to cover a little bit of Austin FC news. We'll answer a bunch of listener questions. We're also going to be joined by Marcelo Balboa of Apple TV to talk about Leeds Cup and then also preview the Copa Teos match versus the Houston Dynamo and a lot of other stuff. My name's Landon Cottam, and I'm joined by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremiah Bentley. And at what point in time did this become Ray Romano's Moontower Soccer?
Well, it happened when Stephanie Cragnola had a dream the other night that she texted us about where Ray Romano bought a controlling stake in the Moontower Soccer Corporation for $500,000. And so I reached out to Ray Romano's people and gave this offer to him, and he took us up on it. So Ray Romano is now the controlling owner of Moontower Soccer Incorporated. And I asked if he wanted to come on and be a guest host, and he said, absolutely not.
Well, interestingly, I don't feel like I've ever talked about how much I love Everybody Loves Raymond, which is clearly my favorite show in the history of television, despite it being a network sitcom, which is my least favorite genre of TV show. But he was so good. Ray Romano, great human, not at all related to the money he invested in this show or company. Just really happy to be here and support him.
Also not related to the investment at all. Everyone, check out Ice Age 6 in theaters in 2026. It's going to be a great time for the whole family. We should also mention a minor elephant in the room where I accidentally uploaded the wrong file to the episode page last week. Therefore, most of you heard the same episode 2 weeks in a row. And I had several people reach out saying that they didn't clock it at first and just thought, because on that episode I talked about scoring a goal in my rec league, they were just like, oh, I just thought Landon just became a scoring machine and was just killing it in the ACSA 4th division or whatever. And it is absolutely not true. Instead, this week, my team had a bye. I subbed for another team and may or may not have broken my wrist in that game, which is maybe not the opposite of scoring a goal, but not far from that. So I'm going to go to the doctor tomorrow while you're listening to this probably and see if my wrist is severely injured or not.
Yeah, and I think it's one of these deals like I appreciate how many people care about getting the show at the right amount of time, and honestly, it makes me feel good. The number of people who tell us, like one guy like sent me a message through, I don't remember where it was, and he's like, "Well, I get up and run at 5:00 in the morning on Tuesdays, and like you accompany me on a run, and you didn't this week." And I'm like, I feel terrible for you, but also I kind of love that we're a part of your like 5 a.m. Tuesday morning running routine. Yeah. So good for you, man.
Like, thank you so much to everyone who reached out and sent messages. Thank you so much for having our back. And like, I think my first thing I saw was a text message from Jeremiah when I woke up. And I don't wake up super early because I usually stay up late editing. And so I see the text from Jeremiah and I'm like, crap, I got to go fix this. Hopefully not many people have downloaded it. Only several hundred, Jeremiah. No big deal. So I got it fixed. Hopefully you all went back and listened to the new one and got your fix, but we appreciate the support. Appreciate everyone who reached out and tried to warn us, even though it didn't help until I woke up.
And so hopefully also tomorrow morning, the file that we're talking, this conversation right now is the file that everybody listens
hopefully
to.
You're and hearing not this right now.
Yeah, and not like the show from 3 weeks ago at this point.
All right, let's jump into the news of the week. We're going to do this a little bit out of order. We normally talk about the game right off the top. There's not a game. There's not a ton of news. So we're going to start with news now. And then we'll go on to listener questions. And then we'll move on to our chat with Marcelo Balboa about Leagues Cup and the Houston match. But let's start off with this bit. So Let's see. What do we have here? Meet the player event at Q2 Stadium. Jeremiah, did you go to this? I did not.
I did not go to this one either. We were out of town for like a family thing. I don't know if this is good or bad, but what I've heard from people who went is like it was like the best meet the player event, but it may have been because it was the least crowded, and therefore you could go like actually meet the players and do things. And we got some. I think we'll see this next month, but like the Corneola's got some like super cool signatures for a thing that's going to raise some money. So like, yeah, it was like a really good event that people had fun at, but it may be because there's not as much interest as there has been.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I mean, I'm glad the people that went had a good time, because I think the first one they did was in 2022. Because I remember Austin FC is kind of a COVID club where access was fairly limited for the first year of their existence. 2022, they did that event. The team was super good, and everyone who waited in line waited in essentially one line and got to meet one set of players. And that was pretty much all most people got to do. This year, it seemed like everyone who went got to jump in multiple lines, talk to multiple people, try some food, and had a good time. So whatever the reasoning is, I'm glad everyone had a good time. Hopefully they can maybe learn logistically how to handle it a little bit better with the experience now. But yeah, we'll let Mike and Steph tell you more details about their thing later this week. But it sounds like a fun idea.
And also, they were there, so they could provide a way better report on the day than we could. So hopefully between now and when they record, they'll listen to this and do a better job of summarizing the day than we did.
Or not listen to this and still do a better job.
And still do, but no matter what. Yeah, it's fair.
Other Austin FC news. We mentioned last week that we had heard that Austin FC was going to be playing some closed door friendly in order to not be off for 2 weeks straight. We Are Austin TV reported a couple of days ago that there was a closed door match versus the Charleston Battery. Charleston Battery, for context, is one of the two like clear best teams in USL right now. The other being Damian Loss's Louisville City. They're both on 41 points. I think the next closest behind them in either division is on like 32 or something. So it's not even really that close. So if you're going to play a USL team, play the best USL team. And they did that. We Are Austin TV also reporting a 4-1 victory, including goals from, do you remember the goals, or do you have that in front of you? It was several folks who don't often score for us.
Yeah, I didn't write them down. I'm excited that Austin played. I'm excited that people got minutes. I'm excited Austin won. I feel like just like preseason matches, we shouldn't read too much into who scored and whether that means they're going to score a lot going forward.
Okay, I have it up here. It was Sabovic, Obrian, Fodre, Bukari. But yeah, like you said, the result is not important. It seems like what Nico Estevez probably wanted was just for the guys to play a game and not sit out for 2 weeks, because he didn't like what he saw last time it happened. And so it's not a competitive game. It's not against MLS competition, but it is a game. It is them getting out, staying sharp, staying fit, and hopefully that allows them to be ready for this MLS game, which is both important for league outcomes and for Copa Tejas outcomes.
Yeah, right. So let's talk about a little bit about why Austin didn't play, because this week is the League's Cup week, which Austin did not make because where Austin finished in the table last year. We'll get into this a little bit with Marcelo Balboa, but including whether we think it was a good idea or not that Austin doesn't make it. And I definitely feel like we didn't get into this in a lot of detail. But the fact that Austin's going so deep in the U.S. Open Cup and is a roster that's limited and can only handle so many competitions, like I'm totally okay with not being in this one and still having the ability to focus on like Open Cup and the MLS season together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I will say this with the thing with Marcelo, but I'm not like a major Leagues Cup hater like I know a lot of Austin FC fans are, but I am also kind of glad we're not playing in it this year. So the reason that Austin is not in Leagues Cup is the way that they chose it was the top 18 teams from MLS got to go into this competition, but they also didn't want any MLS teams playing more than 2 competitions outside of MLS. The Vancouver Whitecaps chose to play in the Canadian, is it called the Canadian Championship? I don't remember what it's called, but it's essentially the US Open Cup in Canada. So all the Canadian teams play. They chose to do that, meaning they sat out of Leagues Cup. Austin would have been the next team up in standings, but they chose to put San Diego in instead for reasons.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
But again, I'm like in a different scenario. I might be upset about that. I might feel shortchanged, but I feel like it was kind of a favor to this Austin team to not be playing against potentially morale beating sides from Liga MX.
Yeah, that said, if you want to see like 2 pretty high profile teams play, Club America and Portland are playing on Wednesday night in a Leagues Cup match at 8:30 at Q2 Stadium, which I'll be watching on TV. I'm not going to, but I mean it's an interesting competition anytime you see these leagues mix up with each other, but I'm also happy for Austin to not be a part of it this time.
Yeah, this game at Q2, it's not best case scenario as far as competitiveness goes because Portland is in pretty good shape. If they get any kind of result, they'll have a decent chance of moving out of the knockout. So we need to explain this too. There's 18 teams on either side, Liga MX and MLS. All of the games are Liga MX versus MLS. And so you're playing the other league, but your table is within your own league. Meaning, like, if an MLS team wins, they get 3 points in the MLS table. Only 4 teams from each side go through the knockout. So it is pretty cutthroat, meaning if you even draw a game and win the shootout, which you get 1 extra point. So Club America drew 1, won the shootout, drew 1, lost the shootout. They're on 3 points now. They are up against the wall. Like they need like 8 other results to go their way and for them to win by a pretty large amount for them to secure their spot in those final 4. I think that means like there's some of these third games maybe aren't going to be or inconsequential. This one is not entirely. Portland does like a win would put them into that top 4 for sure, I think. Not necessarily. There could be some other weird stuff, but looking at the table, it seems like the win would put them in. Club America needs a lot to happen in their favor, but the Mexican newspapers and tabloids and whatever kind of publications have been roasting the teams that are losing to MLS clubs. Club America is a team under the microscope always, just because they're one of the biggest in North America and in a larger perspective in the world. If they can't go through probably, but if they come in and lose a game to an MLS side, they're going to face some criticism. So they're probably going to want to come in and at least not be embarrassed. And so it could still be a competitive game and a fun game to watch at Q2 this Wednesday, but not necessarily the best case scenario where both teams need to win.
Right, but to your point, like the Mexican clubs kind of always need to win no matter what it means for their table, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go on to a couple, I guess a little bit of player news. Do you want to talk about this player rumor?
Yeah, so this one came out last week. This is, if we're talking rumors versus reports, this is firmly in the rumor category. Berant Celina, this is a player from Kosovo, raised in Sweden, an attacking midfielder from AIK in Sweden. There was mild links in the winter for Austin being interested in this player. It almost seems like this is like those being recycled and being brought back up again. And the only quotes I've seen from the player are all saying, from earlier in the spring, with a link to Racing Santander in Spain. And he's saying, I want to stay at AIK for many years to come. So to me, reading between the lines, it almost seems like this guy wants a new contract. And so he's him and his agent are kind of going to try to mill up some old rumors to maybe boost that
throw out every team in the world that might be interested.
And I'm not saying it's untrue that Austin was interested or reached out, because we've signed how many players from the Balkans now? At least 3, maybe more if I'm forgetting somebody. But so someone with roots in Kosovo, played in Sweden, like that's not an unfamiliar profile for Austin FC. But I am saying it doesn't seem like it's imminent or necessarily even happening now, even if there were connections at some point.
Well, okay, you mentioned the players from the Balkans. This is a conversation Jackson and Bentley and I had last night. Like, you get a lot of toughness with those guys, but at what point do you have so many they begin like their own little cil war inside the building? Like,
we talked about that.
Like, how many players can you have?
Yeah, on the show.
I thought you Mike talked about that, right? Yeah,
yeah. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that, but yeah, we'll see. We're gonna find out soon enough. As soon as Mateo Djordjevic gets into town, that was one of our updates we wanted to make. It seems like he's probably not in town, probably still waiting. There's no signs of that, at least. Potentially still waiting on a visa to get into Austin. His last competitive game was in May, so it's been a long time since he played. So he may not even be available, like making benches much this year. It might be towards the very end of the season once he's actually here and fit and integrated enough to be even in Nico's mind to choose to play in a game. I think that asks the question, like, why didn't we wait until this winter then to buy him? And I think there's a few questions, a few answers, but one of them being just competition. If other people are in for him, and this is when he was for sale, buy him now. Like, buy him when you can buy him. The other being, he turns 23. I don't remember the date, but it's like January, February of next year, meaning at that point, he would no longer be U22 eligible. And that means all of his transfer fee, all of his salary would go towards the salary budget. Or if he's a U22, none of the transfer fee goes towards the salary budget, and only a portion of his salary goes towards the salary budget. So I think even if he doesn't play this year, it's still maybe a really good idea to do it now as opposed to waiting.
Such an MLS like reason for acquiring a player, but it's the rules that you work within the league, and like, so it's okay. And I appreciate hopefully Roto understanding that and making the move at the time that it makes the most sense. And the other new guy that we got news about is like, Nicky Beloko is in training today. Everybody kind of had a week off last week. We saw them like back today. We had the full week for media availabilities and all that kind of stuff this week. So do we think we might see him on the, let me make a prediction. We might see him like on the game day 20 this weekend, but not actually play. It's what I expect to see.
I think that's more of a possibility. So Austin FC 2 has a game against North Texas, which is FC Dallas's second team, on Friday. Maybe they don't care as much about it, but if there's any competitiveness there at all, they might want to try to play CJ Fodre in that game. Just to, I don't know, for bragging rights or whatever. But if that happens, that's one spot open for Nicky Beloko. Or the other way around, if Nicky Beloko pushes someone off of the match day roster, they might say, okay, let's make it CJ so he can play in that Friday game. But it felt, we've heard from the North End guys that they've been told that like their breadcrumbs that they do are not unseen by the media folks at the club. And Nicky Beloko made 2 or 3 appearances in this very short like training hype reel that got put out today on Monday. So maybe reading too much into that, but they did put him in there where they very easily could have not put him in there. And hopefully that means he is available and we'll get to see him. And not that it matters. We talked about this last week too. We're like, it's not a huge deal. Like, we don't really need him right now, but he's our new toy and I want to see him. I want to see him out there.
Yeah. There's a line from, did you remember the movie Natural Born Killers with Woody Harrelson from the 90s?
I know what it is, but I don't know that I've ever actually seen it.
Well, there's a line where Woody says, we're making a point. We just don't know what it is. I feel like maybe that's what's being done here.
That's great. Okay. Anything else here, Jeremiah?
No, let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll sort of get into listener questions, Then we'll do the Marcelo Balboa interview, and
Marcelo's always a
into
good
next
time,
week.
isn't he?
He is, absolutely, man. It's like we wrote questions. What we asked wasn't necessarily what we asked when we talked to him, but it was interesting nonetheless.
Yeah. All right. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
No one is around.
Moontower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FEF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FEF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment. You can check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to FEF.law to find out what makes FEF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. I had a listener, I'm not going to name names out of for legal safety, but they threatened to sue me for damages for uploading the wrong file. And hopefully they don't use FEF Law because I would be in fear for my life.
That's right. It'd be a real problem.
Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balances. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Got lost. Okay. Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more and to register for free parking at the Amplify Esperanza branch on game day, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. And once again, Moontower Soccer is brought to you by Tony C's Pizza and Beer Garden, serving New York-style pizza and authentic Italian. Now open in Kyle at Kohler's Crossing, Round Rock in front of Del Diamond, and on Anderson Lane near Shoal Creek Boulevard. Our Anderson Lane Beer Garden is just 2 miles from Q2 Stadium. Stop by for a pizza and a pint before all this year's home games, and with TVs on every wall, it's the perfect spot to watch all away games.
Or you can bring the whole family for lunch or dinner and catch the game at the same time. I have one clarifying point on the Kyle location. It is in Kohler's Crossing, but that is not the name of the exit because I drove past it and had to loop around to get back to it.
So use your Maps app, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Don't look for a Kohler's Crossing exit. The piece of the month this month is the Hawaii 5-0, prosciutto, fresh mozzarella, pineapple, pizza sauce, Calabrian peppers, and fresh oregano.
Controversial.
Yeah. I do not enjoy a Hawaiian pizza, and I do also not want to yuck anyone's yum. So if you do, go out there, love the pizza, live your best life.
Same. I've had versions of it that I'm totally fine with. I've had other versions that I'm not going to order again, but you don't have to get it. You don't have to eat it if you don't like it. So everybody calm down. It's fine. It's fine. Get whatever pizza you want. They also have 2 for Tuesday, which is 2 pizzas for the price of 1 every Tuesday. Pitcher Perfect Thursday, which is half price pitchers of beer every Thursday. Tony C's is Austin owned and operated, so be sure to check them out online at TonyC'sBeerGarden.com. All right, we are back. A little bit later, we are going to be joined by Marcelo Balboa to preview the Houston match. But for now, it is an off week, which has become a tradition. On off weeks, we answer listener questions. So, Jeremiah, let's jump into the first listener question.
All right. This is from listener Peppermint Cheese.
Which sounds disgusting.
With Muller going to Ving.
I'm sure you're lovely, but your username grosses me out a little.
That's fair. I mean, and I do appreciate a good username that sends some kind of statement.
Sure.
It's
memorable.
First name, last name.
It's memorable.
No doubt. Okay. With Tomas Muller going to Vancouver, Son likely headed to LAFC. Do you see a future where middle American teams get big stars as well? Or is this a continuation of Garber's league growth strategy? Does it continue to perpetuate MLS as a retirement league? Does this help legitimize American soccer?
A lot of big questions here. Does it perpetuate MLS's retirement league? Maybe a little. I'm of the opinion that MLS is only retirement league to the haters who want to call it a retirement league. There's been enough guys come here as old guys, not try very hard, and suck. That's happened so many times that it's pretty well known. I'm sure among the players that if you come here, you're gonna have to work, and you might like. It's no doubt a lot of these guys are the most talented guys, but if you're not working, you're not just gonna have a cakewalk through the league. And so, I feel like that reputation is well known enough that you're not getting your Andrea Pirlo's, your Frank Lampards, who come in and do absolutely nothing in the league. What are the other questions here? Does
it legitimize? I think it does. Like
Son does.
We have to. Yeah.
I think Son, like he's not. I think he's like 32, like, and he's still a very good Premier League player. Like he's not. It's not like he left the Premier League in shame for a year and then came here. Like he is still a very good Premier League player. And he's coming to MLS now. That is crazy. I think I'm not looking forward to playing him. And luckily, he will likely be on international duty for that game, that last game that LAFC has scheduled against Austin FC. So we will probably not play against him. But I think it's very fun that he's coming here. Tomas Muller, to the other question, which is, do you see a future where middle American teams get big stars? Vancouver is still coastal, so we can put them into coastal elite category. But they are not one of the big teams that you hear about big Euro stars being interested in. I love this move for that very reason, that Tomas Muller goes to Vancouver, say he has some success, has a great time. Then other people in Europe look at that and say, oh, maybe there's some other cities I could look at and be happy there. Because as much as we all love Austin, as much as a lot of America loves Austin, there's so many people in the US that love Austin. People in Europe, a lot of them have never heard of Austin. A lot of them don't know anything about Vancouver. A lot of them don't know about any American cities aside from the few big ones you always hear them linked with, or maybe some other town that they've heard of from pop culture, but don't actually even know what state it's in. That's the reality. This could be kind of a shift to that direction where, okay, the three teams that all the big players want to go to are full right now. Muller's going to Vancouver. Maybe the next one goes to Toronto or NYCFC. Maybe the one after that goes to Colorado or Kansas City or Austin, because they've seen, okay, the atmosphere is great. The fans are great. And hopefully by that point in time, it's a winning team. They're winners. I want to play for winners. That's who they are. Let's go do it. We're not there yet, but it seems like it will go in that direction. With MLS is never going to open up the pocketbooks to the extent where there's going to be a select group of haves and a large group of have-nots. I think there will always be some institutional parity built into the league, which will give middle America teams the advantage to getting this. If you're willing to pay, you're willing to use one of your, like a chunk of your salary budget to bring them in, at some point, these players will start listening.
Yeah, I just think we can't ignore, for the average American sports public, what these names mean. Like, you could send the best players from South America, and there's not going to be like 6-year-olds in Austin wearing his jersey in the way that they're all walking around Messi jerseys, the way they might be walking around in Muller jerseys, or whatever. Like, it's just, it does raise the profile among the general sporting public, and like we all have to be okay with that. And I think the good thing is the thing you talked about, like where to succeed, it's going to be guys that care too. It's not just guys who are going to come over here and sell a bunch of jerseys and not care and fail.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next question. This is from Tim Thompson. Tim has a couple. Let's start with the second one here. He said, does Damian Loss ever get to play for Austin FC? Or will he remain in USL limbo? Will he get loaned out to a team in a better league? I think there's a very real possibility that Damian Loss never plays for Austin FC.
Well, I hate when we always agree on everything, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think the best case scenario for Austin is that he plays well enough in USL that they sell him for a meaningful amount of money, and like his contract just doesn't expire, or he doesn't want to extend it because he's like doing good in USL. Like, I really feel like this is the best case. Like, Austin makes some money off this Damian Loss deal because like Brad Stuver's young in MLS terms, most popular player in the in the club. Like, there's no immediate future where the reins were going to be turned over. So like that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, Loss has shown growth in USL, and he's playing for one of the best USL teams. But Brad Stuver is not showing signs of slowing down. He's still very good. He still probably has a few years in him. And so I can't imagine a scenario where Damian Loss is okay waiting for Brad Stuver to retire in 3, 4, 5, 7 years. Damian's not going to wait that long. He's going to want to do something else at some point. And like you said, the best case scenario for Austin in that scenario is sell him, like cash in on him, because otherwise, like, what's the point?
Yeah. What about this other one? I mean, I will say based upon what I've seen that I think that Austin's done for the summer window, and I would be surprised if Austin made any more of the moves. What do you think?
That's Tim's other question is, do you think Roto's done for the summer window? So you think he is? You think we're over?
Yeah.
I think
we're over.
I'm not so sure. I think there could still be, at the very least, some outward moves. The Hadar Obrian thing, I know we said like that may or not be real. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Mike terrified Steph on last week's Moontower by saying maybe Julio was on the move. I wouldn't be surprised if that was real. Like, there's players that I'm sure if Roto can move and get an okay number for it, that he will do it. And he's probably trying to do it on several fronts. And so maybe we're not going to get the big incoming piece, but I would not be surprised if there's an outgoing piece and then a following incoming piece after that. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. This next one's from Jody McDonald, and the answer to the question is revealed in the reading of the question. So I'll try this. Regarding a designated player, Austin FC winger, with the first name Osman, how do we pronounce it? Is it Bukari is how I've been saying it, but I feel like that may not be exactly correct. He talks about emphasizing all syllables, which I don't think we've done. I think we've talked about doing, but we haven't done. Where do we stand here?
So as far as I understand, like Jody says in the question, I believe the correct answer is putting equal emphasis on all syllables. Bukari. But it's hard to do that as an English speaker because they don't teach you this in school, and you may not realize you're doing it, but there's kind of rules to where we put emphasis on syllables. And I didn't really realize that until I learned Spanish and started teaching English in another country, to realize like, oh, there's all these weird rules that I know, but I never knew that I knew. And one of them is being that typically in a 3-syllable word, you put an accent on the middle syllable. And so the anglicized version, I always put a little bit of an accent on that middle syllable. But the actual correct way, I think, is giving kind of equal weight to all three. Bukari. And I think so I don't want to call out some of our fellow content creators. I feel like some people put a little bit of pepper, like extra pepper on one of the syllables or another. And I do the same. I do it on the middle one because I'm an English speaker and that's just what comes out of my mouth. But yeah, we're all doing it wrong is the answer.
So Jody, your answer is yes.
All right. Next one is from Keith Simon. Keith says, it seems that one thing special about Austin FC is that it's a team and a stadium that is surrounded by joy, acceptance, and kindness. What are things Austin FC fans should do to promote this aspect of what's special about our team and atmosphere? For example, not booing the other team when announced or making a point of welcoming opposing fans when they're inside Q2. I'm on board with all of this until the end there. I am totally fine with booing the other team.
Okay. I was just going to say, me too. You can boo the other team. You can boo the refs. I feel like the thing that you can do the most is welcoming opposing fans. I would not only say like when they're inside Q2, but when they're outside Q2. When they're hanging out at Hop Squad or Turnstile or whatever it is, like buy them a beer, be a good fan, talk about this league we love, hate them for 90 minutes inside the stadium, and then like go out for tacos later at the Sunoco parking lot, right? Like I think that's, for me, this like Austin difference, like the biggest thing we can do is the way that we treat other fans when they come and stay here.
Yeah, the philosophy that was told to me, and I think Mike and Steph talk about this a lot, the first time I went to Minnesota, was the philosophy of drink 90 drink. I went to the Black Heart the Black Heart, I don't know what it's called. It's a bar. I don't know what
Black Heart of St. Paul.
Yeah, Black Heart of St. Paul. Hung out with Minnesota fans. They were the nicest people in the world. You go into the stadium, they're booing our players, they're talking trash, they're yelling, whatever. We all walked back to the Black Heart after the game and had beers with all the same people. And it was lovely. Like, I think that's the way to do it. Boo the players, because I think there's a theater to sport, right? And I think that's part of it. I think that's fun. And you can take it too far, of course, but I think there's like during the 90 minutes, you can treat it a little bit differently. But outside of that, and there's caveats to this, right? Houston brings a big rowdy crew. Their hardcore supporters have a bad reputation of starting trouble at home and away. Leave those people alone. But if you see just a stray Houston person walking around the stadium by themselves, they're probably not looking for trouble. Be nice to that person, of course. And so I love welcoming people to Austin. I love showing off Austin, showing off our stadium. So yeah, drink 90 drink. That's my answer.
And one of the random parts of that was in 2022, I had the chance to welcome like LA Galaxy fans and supporters, and then like LAFC fans and supporters on different weeks. And just like, we love you guys. And they're like, they want to talk shit about the other. Like, yeah, we're cool with those Galaxy people, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you know, the Galaxy people here was like, yeah, of course we're cool, but like LAFC fans, they're
can't trust them.
Whatever. Yeah, you can't trust them. Like, sure, love you right now. That's all that matters.
All right, this next one is fun. Alex Modney asks, what was the first album you bought with your own money? This is a personal one. We asked for a personal and soccer one, so this is a personal one.
Yeah. Does it have to be like a first release album? Because I know what the first album I bought with my own money was.
Whatever. Like, and for me, I'll spoil this. Like, I'm not sure actually, because I didn't have money for a long time. It was like allowance or something my mom gave me. But like, what the first thing you like picked out on your own? You went into a store and said, "This one, I'm getting this one."
Yeah, it would be. Oh, I'm gonna have to think about it. I had an answer, but now I'm realizing I was influenced by my mom, which I don't feel like really counts.
What was that answer?
So the answer was Led Zeppelin, the fourth Led Zeppelin album, which has 100 different names. But like I bought that on CD because my mom had it on an album, and I wanted to be able to listen to it in my car.
So you had a car already by the time you bought your own one.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I'm going way further back because again, I probably didn't have my own money. The first album I remember like going into a store and saying, "This one, I want this one." I was absolutely too young to have my own money, but I think it was, and this is very off-brand, not representative of where my music tastes went, but I'm pretty sure I know it was a Mariah Carey cassette tape, and I think it was the Music Box album. It potentially was the Butterfly album. I think it was Music Box. Another early one was Dina Carter, who was like a country singer when I was a young kid. But the like I'll say the most influential album I ever bought was in middle school. I was listening to a lot of like terrible rock music that was playing on the Lubbock radio, which you can imagine what that's like. I heard a song that sounded like this heavy rock and roll sound, and I was like, "This is cool. I want more of this." Bought the album sight unseen, only knowing the radio single, and it was Jimmy Eat World's "Bleed American." And that single is very heavy sounding. The rest of the album is like a pop rock record.
Not at all. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, this isn't what I wanted, but it's what I needed." And it like kind of shifted me in another direction from that point forward. So that's the most influential one I ever bought.
Okay, wait, now I have a good answer. So one, my cousin was in a cover band in the late 90s in Lubbock, and Strawberry Wine by Dina Carter was her like go-to show ending song. But like my first tape I ever bought with my own money was It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy.
Okay, there we go.
Which is like the like seminal, yeah. Which is like for a very rural white kid from Texas was, you know, I don't know, whatever. Chuck D spoke to me. I don't know how. The struggle of the people meant something.
My uncle, it was my mom's much younger brother. I think he must have been in college. He gave me a tape when I was very young. And, you know, some people have these like cool cousins or family members who like turn them on to a bunch of stuff because they were very cool at new stuff. This was very much like, I don't want this. Will you take this away from me? And it was the single cassette tape of Take a Bow by Madonna. And I was like, and we had a tape player in the house and I turned it on. I was like, again, like, I don't know what this is, and I don't think I like this. But after a bit, I was like, actually, that song kind of rocks. I think it's pretty good.
All right, let's go back to a soccer question. This is from Andrew McGalliard. Time to window shop. Who would be a non-DP, non-homegrown caliber player from around the league that you would love to add to the current squad?
Jeremiah, my joylessness gets a little in the way for these.
Same.
Where I have a hard time thinking pie in the sky because there's just so many. There's a lot of players who I'd love to have on our team, but it just feels so unrealistic for most of them that I had a hard time finding like good players that were non-DPs and then anywhere near realistic for us to bring in. Did you have any thoughts here?
Well, let me ask a slightly different question. What is the profile of that player that you would want? Like, what can they do? What position they play? Like, what is attainable?
This team needs a chance creator, and that's one of the positions that MLS teams spend a lot of money on, and a lot of them are DPs.
Yeah, that one's tough. That's why like my first thought was Michael Boxall, so that I could not hate him for a while.
Yeah. Honestly, like that one's unrealistic for like sentimental reasons. I think it would be hard to make him leave Minnesota, but that is kind of the profile of like guys who aren't DPs. It would cost money to get them out of there, but if you make the right offer, maybe you can do it. One that like it doesn't fit the criteria of this question, but I was like, Georgi Mihailovic in Colorado, I bet somebody, if they offered the right amount, could get them out. And the news came out today that Toronto did a cash transfer for him for $8 million. And it's like, yeah, I called that one. He is a DP and will remain a DP. So that wouldn't have been an option for Austin or in the context of this question. But it just kind of highlights how MLS is structured, where it's so top heavy. A lot of the best players are DPs. A lot of the next best players are homegrowns who are probably going to get sold to Europe soon. And then in the middle are guys who, how much is it going to take to pry them out? Okay, here is one middle of the road guy that I think like would be realistic and wouldn't have to be a DP. It's not necessarily a need that Austin has right now position wise, but Paul Rothrock from Seattle, he is one of these squad guys that like in a certain circumstance, he's more than a serviceable starter. But for Seattle, at least, maybe his next contract won't be this way, but he's cheap enough that if you bring in another more expensive player, you can afford to split time or have him come off the bench. And that's what Seattle's using him for right now. A guy like that is worth his weight in gold, which means his next contract is probably not going to be that good anymore, right? Because that's just how MLS works.
Yeah, totally.
Next one here, Kevin Trahan. Speaking of contracts, what is the best and worst contract in Austin FC history? And he says, this is meant to consider how they hit the salary budget, so include transfer fees. So we're talking CNBC context here, where
okay.
DPs, their transfer fees don't hit the salary budget. And so I have a hard time including any DPs in this conversation.
For best or worst, or are you just thinking worst?
For worst. I'm thinking worst.
okay. It's like whatever Brad Stuver's original contract was, best. I don't feel like there's any debate on that.
I'll say Owen Wolf is the best because he is still a supplemental roster player.
I mean, that's fair. Okay. I feel like that, but that was like a factor of who we hired as the head coach. I would say like just
yeah, we kind of looked
casting
into
about
it.
the whole league.
You're right.
Yeah,
Brad Stuver's a good
that's
shout too because he's still good value. He's like one of
even
like,
now, right?
Mid to high table as far as like cost on goalkeepers. He's worth every penny. He's been our best player over the course of time. Every season, not necessarily, but over the course of time, our absolute best player.
So I think the worst is the more interesting one, and then it becomes a question of is it just over a single season or like the length of the contract? So
I think you can take greater context because in MLS that matters.
Yeah,
and that's where my answer is going to go. What is your answer in that context?
Well, I feel like outside of the context of like Danny Houston's original contract is the worst contract, with Giassi Sardes's being pretty close, but they both only hurt us for a limited amount of time.
Yeah, that's why my answer is Julio Cascante.
I knew that was going to be. When you set that up, I knew I couldn't claim Julio because like, I'd have something else. Yeah.
I think some people might say, okay, look, like Ronnie Redes, we paid $2 to $3 million. None of that counted. He was U22. That didn't count towards the budget. There's a lot of guys in that category where it's like, okay, we spent maybe too much, but their salaries were low or whatever. I think all of my candidates are folks who Claudio Reyna gave big paydays to after that 2022 season. We luckily got out of the Diego Fagundes one because that would have maybe output wise that could have turned around. But I kind of think he needed the change of scenery to turn his around. And even in LA, he's not had that much output. But Julio Cascante, Alex Ring, like those guys all got
Sebastian
huge paydays. Driussi was a DP though. It doesn't take money away from other players then. Maybe in like the grander scale of like how much the ownership is willing to pay people or spend on transfer fees, but actual salary budget, Alex Ring, Diego Fagundes, Julio Cascante, all limited how much money we could spend on other players for the time that they were on the roster in a way that a DP never did. And so that's where my brain goes. And I think it's because Julio Cascante is still here and still limiting how much we can spend on the rest of our roster. That's my answer.
All right, let's go to this Trevor Allison one because you have notes on it. I feel like this is one of these dumb questions that you usually don't study, but you did this time. So I
have an answer to this dumb question.
I know. So if you're making a Muppet soccer movie where every character is a Muppet, except for the coach, which current or past MLS coach would you cast to be the coach? This would be playing it straight, completely straight, like Michael Caine in Muppet Christmas Carol.
Okay, so I've not actually seen that many Muppet movies. So
I own all of them on DVD, but it's okay.
Okay, so you can critique my answers here. So if we're going for like a gruff, straight man, kind of acting as the heel, being the butt of the jokes, you could say someone in the category of like Bob Bradley, Peter Vermees, Bruce Arena, that kind of guy. I think the contrast between them and the Muppets would be funny, but you probably, a la Christmas Carol, you want the character to have a change of heart at the end of the show a little more tenderness, and I don't think any of these guys have that in them. The most Muppet-like MLS coach ever is Vanni Sartini.
Yes.
And he would be a joy to watch, but maybe there's not enough contrast between the Muppets and the only human character in the movie. So this brings me to the last category, which is people who can be stern and serious, but can also carry the weight of the heartwarming parts convincingly whenever that change of heart does come along. My runner-up is Gio Savarese. He's a guy I find really likable, but also probably if he were disappointed in you, you would really feel the weight of that.
Yeah.
But my number one answer is Wilfred Nancy from the Columbus Crew. He can be serious. he can show that stern, like focused side of him, but he also has a lot of charisma and charm. And whenever the change of heart scene does come, like his smile and his laugh, I think would really carry the weight of that scene. So he's my answer, Wilfried Nancy.
I can't even. This is a perfect answer to this whole.
And maybe some like MLS old heads will have some like older school answers that I just don't have enough information about. So let us know if there's like an older school person or a newer school person that we overlooked.
Yeah. I don't know who else it'll be. Those get. Yeah, I think probably Bob Bradley and Bruce Arena are the ones who are going to like play it as straight as Michael Caine did more than anybody else. But I mean, I love your perspective on it. I feel like Nico Estevez would be the closest to the like John Denver version of the Muppets, where he like is a Muppet also kind of at the same time, and you can't tell the difference.
Yeah, it would be one note, and it would be pleasant.
He would fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a good boy.
Super pleasant and fit in, but like not stand out. I feel like it's this deal. Okay, I'm going to ask this next one. This is from Timon. I said a while back, Landon mentioned he's selective about where he gets his T-shirts. I need some new shirts. What brand should I buy?
Yeah, okay. Tough question. There are some like big brands that I think make better stuff than others, and that's kind of hit and miss. But what I've been doing a lot of is there's a brand that makes just blank T-shirts that other companies will use to print their shirts on. And they're called Comfort Colors. But if you look at like Instagram ads that are targeting you for whatever, like Etsy sellers or like smaller independent sellers, look at what blanks they're using. And that's what I've been doing a lot is like Comfort Colors, or looking for like heavier weight 100% cotton shirts that if they are not bragging about the blanks they're using, I've seen a lot of independent sellers doing this. They'll brag about the blanks they're using because people are starting to look for it. And so if they're not and they just say 100% cotton, no other details, maybe steer away, or if you can ask, do that.
Be skeptical. I like it.
If you ever see Comfort Colors and you like the design, go for it. Comfort Colors makes a really nice t-shirt. It's a little heavier weight, like drapes really nicely, feels really good. And don't be afraid of the heavy weight. I think some people in Austin want the lightest, softest shirt ever. Those feel okay and do well, but as far as like overall look and touch goes, the heavier weight ones do it for me.
Now I want to like turn my T-shirt around and check out where it's from, but also support NPR. Wait, for those of you that may be watching, which none of you are. Okay, we've got time for like one more question. I kind of want to go to this one from Martin Peterson, because I feel like a lot of the other questions that we have are like bigger picture things that we could probably dive into in greater detail on a future show. And I don't want to just give them like 1 minute to answer with the time that we have left. So this one is, I know you talked about Nico Dubrsarski a little bit last week, but I think Forgot was projected to play mostly for FC, though. He's like pretty useful. Thoughts on his signing in general, and how do you see us developing him? Will he be a straight 6 or a more defensive version of Owen?
So I want to go back a little bit to the expectations. What do you think most people's expectations were for him? Because I think I've seen kind of wildly different ones depending on who you ask.
Yeah. I mean, my expectation for him was that he would be a first team. What he is, like a first team U22 player that's probably not going to see a ton of minutes. I can't think about a great person to compare him to, but yeah, that he was not going to be a second team player at all, and this year maybe he wouldn't play a ton, and I don't remember where he signed in the order of players, but that there were like bright hopes for him in the future, which I feel like is what we've seen from him, is that he hasn't played a ton. But you can see where he's going to get some minutes, and then it becomes interesting, just like where those are going to come from. Even if you assume there's a future where Elias Sanchez doesn't play for Austin FC after this season, still a lot of midfielders that have minutes ahead of him, especially if Owen and Danny are here for the long term.
Yeah, I think that's the absolutely right take. Like, I've also seen other people that seem to have expected him to kind of like come in and actually take a lot of starting minutes this year. That is like best case scenario for him. But a kid who had barely turned 20 when he signed and moved here, as a U22. I think I hope my record stands. Go back and find the episode, but I'm pretty sure I said, like, I don't expect him to play a lot this year. This is a signing for the future. Maybe in 2026, that's when we start seeing him working in. To expect a guy in his situation to come in and become a major role player this year, I think was a little too much to ask. So as far as the position goes, I think he is more of a straight six, even if it is in a double pivot, that he will always be the deeper, more defensive one. That is his style. It is also, central midfield is the hardest position to play in soccer. There's other positions that require more talent, but as far as the mental cognitive load, the awareness, the experience, all of that, central midfield is brutal. And to ask a 20-year-old to come in and step into a new country, a new league, a new team, and do that instantly is too much. Next year is when we can maybe start to judge him a little more. This year is all learning, and I'm fine with that. But I think he will be more of a straight six once he develops, and hopefully he can become a really good contributor to this team. But it's going to take time.
All right, let's go ahead and take another break, and then we'll come back on the other side with Marcelo Balboa talking about a little bit about Leagues Cup, and then also will help us preview the upcoming match this weekend against Houston.
Yeah, hang tight. We'll be right back.
Moontower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience. Our friend at Sage Wilson Realty are giving away 2 tickets to an upcoming match. You can fill out the form in the show notes for your chance to win.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com.
And our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only supports this podcast and this team because Austin FC takes their next step to becoming Copa Tejas champions this weekend. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. And I know there's rumors spreading that we said that Copa Tejas didn't matter last year. Don't believe those. I never said that.
Yeah, it totally matters this year.
And
US Open
every
Cup
year, and I've
and
always
Leagues
said
Cup.
that.
All of them. We're winning all the cups. Rain and hardware in Austin this year.
We also want to plug one more time an event being put on by Progress Texas called All-Star Activism, which is a live podcast featuring Austin FC legend Brad Stuver, Progress Texas's podcasting director Chris Moser, and myself, Landon Cottom from Moontower Soccer. We're going to be talking to Brad about all of his achievements on and off the field. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Bring a friend. It's going to be out at Hop Squad right next to the stadium. There's going to be soccer folk and non-soccer folk there. It's going to be a good time, and I think it's just like hearing Brad talk about the things he does off the field. As much as we all talk about it and think about it, I feel like it almost is still underrated how much he does in the community and how much he does on his own time that he doesn't have to. And so this is going to kind of be an event highlighting that. So check that out. We'll put a link in the show notes if you're interested. You can click there and find out the details. All right, we are back. We are thrilled to be joined by a man who has, I didn't look up the exact number. I'm going to guess about 1 million appearances for the Colorado Rapids and an equal number for the U.S. national team. It's Marcelo Balboa. Marcelo, good to see you again, bud.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Appreciate it.
Did I get those numbers right?
You were close. I mean, I've been, I've played long enough with the Rapids and long enough with the national team. I did a few things right. I did a lot of things wrong. So I'm okay.
Well, we're going to be previewing Austin's upcoming game against the Houston Dynamo, but let's talk a little bit about Leagues Cup. We've been pretty busy covering Austin stuff, and Austin's not in it right now.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to pick your brain and kind of go through that. So I'll kick it to Jeremiah. Jeremiah, what questions did you have?
Yeah, well, let's just talk about, we came right before we came on, talked about the fact that Austin's not in the Leagues Cup, but maybe just for the folks that don't know a lot, like what is the Leagues Cup? How is everybody doing so far? What's happening in Austin this upcoming week? I think it's a place we can start.
All right. Well, let's see. I don't know. You guys, Austin guys, you're the experts. Is it a good thing you're not in Leagues Cup so you get some time off and relax,
I would
or
say
would you rather, or would you
yes.
rather be playing?
I would say it's a good thing that Austin's not in it this year. Do you feel the same way, Jeremiah?
I mean, I think so. I feel like this Austin team, especially right now, is not deep enough to deal with it, so it's good.
All right.
Yeah,
I don't know. I always like to play in every tournament possible. So I would think to play against Liga MX right now would be kind of fun to see where we're at. And I think we've seen a lot of interesting games with America tying here, tying both games. So I don't know. I guess I always like to see how our best teams are doing. But you guys also lost Brendan Vasquez. You lost a few players, so I could see the maybe better to give your team a little bit of a rest so you can, at the end of the day, it's about what? MLS Cup, right? Winning the MLS Cup, making the playoffs, and fighting for a championship. So I could see both sides.
you said MLS is best, and I wouldn't put I wouldn't put Austin in that category at the moment. But we've seen some momentum here, and I think partially that's due to not having so many games, because we struggled in May when we did have a ton of games, but outside of that, we've been okay, and we're showing some momentum now. So, I do think as much fun. We did have some fun in Leagues Cup last year, beating a couple of Mexican giants, but I think getting to play an Open Cup, for me, is fun. I'm a romantic about the Open Cup a little bit, and so I think that has been fun, and getting to playing a few games and getting fairly deep into a tournament is pretty fun.
All right.
But then also, man, we're going to talk about Houston in a second. I watched the thumping that Tigres put on Houston the other day. I'm like, that would not be good for this Austin team right now, suffering a game like that.
Yeah. Well, you could say the same thing about Cruz Azul, right? Getting thumped 7-0.
Yeah.
That's a beating right there. So I hear what you're saying. I think as players, um, you want to play in every competition possible. So, but you also want a trophy. You want to fight for a trophy. So I get you guys are a little thin. I get it. Colorado's a little thin too right now. Houston's struggling. So there's quite a few teams that are struggling in Leagues Cup. But I think it's always interesting to see again how we compete, since we've got such a huge rivalry with Mexico right now. You know what I mean? I was watching a program the other day from Mexico, and they were asking questions of the two analysts to see if they would agree. And they both agreed that the U.S. has better stadiums than Mexico. They both agreed that we have better training facilities. But when they talked about who do you think will win, who has a better chance of winning ever winning a World Cup, U.S. Mexico, they both disagreed. They disagreed on who had better teams in their league. So, I think the rivalry is important between MLS and Liga MX. But I think we're at a point now where getting to a final and losing like Vancouver did, it's not us. I mean, we need to start being a little bit more competitive in those finals.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. It's fun to watch the MLS teams be competitive against these teams, but whenever getting to the final and losing is as much as we can hope to do, I kind of also hope that's a wake up call to this committee of owners who are limiting spending and not allowing the pocketbooks to open up a little bit.
Are we going to touch that subject? Or do we want to go there?
We don't have to go deep in.
We
our
can.
Listeners,
Yeah, let's go there.
Our listeners very much know our opinions on it. If you have a strong opinion, feel free to share.
No, but listen, it's simple. There comes a point where you got to let the reins off these owners, some of these owners. So if you want to go spend an extra 200 million, why can't you do it? Everybody's got the right to do it. Not everybody's going to do it. Everybody has a different game model, a franchise model. I understand that. But listen, Miami's doing it, and no one's really complaining, right? They went out and
everybody's
got DePaul,
complaining.
They got
actually.
Messi. They got. So I don't think so. I think people are hoping that this model that David Beckham and Jorge Mas are setting up is going to maybe open the eyes up of other owners, of seeing what is the potential if you do spend some money, what you can get. So I think that we're handcuffing our teams a little bit. And not all, because not all are going to spend that kind of money. But I think that there are teams out there that will spend that money to make sure they're a competitive team. They're competing with the Liga MX to win Champions Cup. They're wanting to win League Cup. So I think it's coming sooner than later. I just hope it doesn't drag on the way this changing the calendar for the World Cup and going back to a European kind of calendar, so we can do the open market trades with players and the transfer market and stuff like that. But I think here eventually we got to let the rings off and see what happens.
Yeah.
Wait, so let's go to that, Marcelo. So if you were the next Don Garber, you're switching the calendar like immediately? Is that what you're saying?
Listen, you've got to balance, right? You've got to realize when you're in Austin, you don't have to worry about snow. You know what I'm saying? But in Colorado, you've got to worry about January, February, and March. You know what I mean? Can you play a game in 6-degree weather? And or can you play in 10-degree weather? But I mean, there's only one way to try.
Can you play a game in 106-degree weather?
No,
the question we're starting to face.
But this is yeah, exactly. So this is my point: is why not try it? What's the worst thing that can happen? It doesn't really pan out. It doesn't really fit our league, but at least we tried it. You know what I mean? And next year would have been the ideal time. Even this year would have been the ideal time to switch that calendar over, because we would have gone right into the World Cup. The World Cup comes in between our season, and then we finish out the season and we see how it goes. You know what I mean? Or we start the season over again. But again, listen, I know there's lots of people that have to make that decision. Owners have to look at financially, are they going to lose money? Are they going to make money? Are people going to show up to the games? You know what I mean? So how I guess it was as safe is it for players to play at that colder weather? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think we talk way too much sometimes. We just need to try. We need to give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, MLS always a careful bunch when making new changes.
Listen, I'm not losing money because I'm not an investor, so it's easy for me to sit here when I have nothing at stake. But I think being a guy who has played in Mexico, has played for the national team, has played in a few World Cups, has coached, I think there comes a point where you've got to just let it loose a little bit and see what happens. You can always bring it back. You can always rein it back in. But unless we let it go for a little bit and let it see, and I'm glad that Miami's pushing the tempo. I'm glad Miami's spending the money that they're spending and pushing the boundaries of this league, because that's going to want everybody else. There's other teams out there that want to spend that kind of money, that want to win championships. So let's hope they kind of see what Miami's doing and we kind of move forward from there.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into this Houston Dynamo preview. Jeremiah, kick us off here.
Yeah, this is two clubs that are very familiar with each other at this point, right? Like, one of the interesting things that I learned that I hadn't realized, like, Austin and Houston have played each other 13 times so far. Austin's won 8, Houston's won 5. Never in the history of these series have they tied. So that was like a very interesting, like,
wow.
little
I didn't know that.
random tidbit.
You just jinxed this weekend's game, right?
I feel like at the end
this weekend's game.
Yeah.
You better hope
it's going to be a
1-1
draw.
3-3 tie. 3-3 tie, please.
3-3 would be way better.
Yeah.
Yes, let's get some goals for this draw. So, yeah, right now, Houston in league play, Houston won 2-0. I think back in April when they played. Then in the Open Cup, Austin won 3-1 in the U.S. Open Cup on May 21st. This is on Saturday. Copa Tejas match. Like, this is pretty early in Copa Tejas, so it doesn't matter that much, except for Austin obviously needs to win for that. Houston's in 11th right now. Austin's in 7th. Austin's on a pretty good run. Like, how are we feeling about this one coming up this weekend, guys?
I'll say I was a little worried when I saw Brandon go down, because I'm thinking to myself, who's going to step up? Who's going to score goals? But I don't know. There's something about the way Austin plays. There's something the way, and I know in the fans, and we were there, we've done a few games there, and it's very fickle right now. You love, you hate, you love Nico, you hate Nico. You love the team, you hate the team. I get that. That happens everywhere. But I don't know. After watching Houston play the other day, losing 2-0, they just seem to not. This is probably the first year I could say Houston's under Ben. They're not really clicking yet. You know what I mean? They haven't really hit that stride of, okay, this is how we're going to play. It looks like for me, they're that consistency you want to have your team, especially with about 10 to 15 games left in the season. You want them to have that already by this point. and they're still not able to find that one, but they're still a very dangerous team. They can hit you on a counterattack. They've got some good players. So for me, you know what, Austin has to keep riding that we've had that break. Now we can go after teams. We can really push the tempo at home. We can really push teams to their limit. So I see this as probably one of the most even games this weekend.
I want to come back. You said talking about transition moments. That is one of the notes I made that I want to talk about here in a little bit. Talking about Houston's, like, what's changed with him since the last time we played. Not a ton, really. Lawrence Denali has come back from a long-term injury that he suffered last year. So that's another attacking weapon. Nico Lodero left, but he wasn't playing a huge role in this team anyway. They bought veteran center back Antonio Carlos, but I'm not expecting him to play anytime soon. He hasn't made a bench yet, and I don't think he's played since May or something. So he's probably not going to be available for this game. So it's not a super different team from what Austin has seen. I will say in that 3-1 Open Cup win, it was a heavily rotated Houston side. I'm not going to take anything away from that game aside from bragging rights. But as far as tactical analysis, I mean, it was a bad Houston team, a rotated Houston team, and Austin punished them for it. So
yeah, but it's not your fault, right?
Yeah, but
your job is to
play
win
the
every
games you
time you
have,
step
right?
on the field. Whenever you step on the field, your job is to frickin' win. It doesn't matter who they put on the field. If they put a second team, that's not your problem. You got to get the job. And sometimes it's harder to do it against a second team or a team that's had a lot of rotations because you don't know those players that well. You know that starting 11, you know that starting 13, we'll say, because there's always rotation, two guys, always a mix. But after that, those guys, you're just like, okay, I haven't seen him play in a while. I haven't seen that guy play in a while. So the job they did, they got it done. It doesn't matter. It's not Austin's fault. It's this is what Houston presented on the day. Can you take advantage of it? Can you get it done? And you guys did. That's what counts. So now, can you keep that momentum going? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, the game that I am going to look back to is when these two teams played in April 26th in Houston. That was a 2-0 win for the Dynamo. Vasquez was out with sickness, and so Uzuni started at the 9. That's going to be what we see in this game again, because that's what's been happening since Brandon's been out. Brendan Hines-Ike was out with a red card in that game as well. So we started Julio Cascante and Alexander Svatok. Svatok was not in great form yet. He's been much better in kind of the middle section of the season.
Yeah.
So I think that's something going for us. Austin was, if you remember in those first several games, Austin gave up no goals. I don't remember how many games we went where he had like 3 goals given up in I don't know how many games. And this was around that stretch where Austin finally started trying to do something a little bit different. And they came out really aggressive in this game. And I think this game got way too open where they were sending long balls to Griffin Dorsey and then making individual mistakes after that. And and then making individual errors in already precarious moments because of those transition moments. One thing Austin's been really good at is transition defense, and it did not show in that game at all.
Listen, you can't. Certain games, certain things happen, and certain days you don't feel it. You know what I mean? Certain days, certain games, you make mistakes, and in an area you shouldn't be making a normal mistake. The ball bounces. So, listen, there's no way you're going to have a great game every time you play somebody. You know what I mean? So that game, I remember watching that game. You guys looked a little slow. You looked a little off. Your passing was a little sloppy, if I remember correctly, that night. And listen, it happened. As long as you bounce back from that, and Austin did, they have bounced back from that. So the important thing is, what's the weather going to be like, boys, this weekend on the Saturday?
Probably hot.
The 90s at 7:30 at night.
Probably still mid to high 90s.
Yes.
So whoever defends better, whoever hits the transition moments quickly, because you're not going to be it's not going to be an open game. There's no way this is going to turn into a track meet. It's not possible. So key is limit mistakes. That's going to be huge. Also, getting back in transitions from offense to defense. How quickly can you get your line set up and defend? So, and I think set pieces are going to be huge because, listen, there's no way you're going to be able to run the way you want to run on a Saturday night when it's 60, 70 degrees compared to 90 and probably 60% humidity. So again, mistakes. Limiting your mistakes are going to be huge.
Yeah, that was one of the things I had listed as my notes for Austin's path to victory is to stay disciplined, make Houston create their own chances and don't give them chances. And we did that over and over in that first game where they have some really talented players. They have some players who can finish chances, and Andre Linger is really deadly in the box. Ponce, when he's on, is really deadly in the box. Jack McGlynn, when you get him the ball on his left foot in that final third, he can put in really dangerous balls. But they don't suffer a little bit from the same thing that Austin has, where they don't have that traditional 10 string puller chance creator. And so if you can force them to beat your defense, which has been quite good this year for the most part, force them to do that. Don't, like you said, don't get into that track meet like we did in Houston in April. Play the game that you've been playing. And we don't need to score 3 goals against this team. If we can score 1 or 2, that might be enough.
Buddy, you are not going to make the Apple viewers happy saying that.
we're trying to make the playoffs here.
We're
trying to make the playoffs here, Marcelo.
But we want 3 goals from, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Jeremiah, put the hat on.
We can break out the hat here, Marcelo. Okay. I wish we would score more goals.
I love it. I agree with you.
We scored 4.
It makes life easier for us.
Scored 4 a couple of weeks ago, and Jeremiah was still not satisfied. He wants more. So if we score 5 or 6, that's great. But what I'm saying is we don't have to against this Houston team. If we can be the defensive team that we are, 1 or 2 is fine.
Yeah, but listen, there's not a lot of games left. Okay, we're past the midway point, so this is the most important part of the season. Because if you catch the right run at the right time, next thing you know, you're in an MLS Western Conference final. Let's be honest. How many teams have we seen catch fire? I remember St. Louis when they won the West. Kansas City was the last group. They caught fire the last 5 games of the season. What happened? They steamrolled the number 1 team. They went through. Look at Atlanta last year. They caught fire at the right time. They run through the number 1 team Supporters Shield winners right through there. So, listen, I get it, but when you catch a little bit of a run, score 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You got to keep that form going because that's what's going to take you into an MLS Cup. That's what's going to take you into a Western Conference final. So, listen, now is the time you need to start showing that playoff run.
If we can score 4, great. What I'm saying, my point is, don't give up your rest defense shape in order to do that, and let Griffin Dorsey get on the break. Like, keep your shape. Use what, because we weren't throwing 10 guys forward when we scored 4 the other night. It was
but Nico never throws 10 guys forward. You know that.
He did it. He did in Houston in April.
Nico sends 4 with the trailing 5th. We know this.
He did in Houston in April.
In the midfield. Listen, Nico's teams are very organized. We know this. Your team will never be a team where we look back and we see 2 center backs and everybody else is blocked into that area. That's not who he is. He's very structured. He's very disciplined in how he wants you to defend. So I don't ever see that happening. And if it does, every once in a while it will happen. But I don't think there's a lot of teams. Now that Bruce has taken over San Jose, I think we've kind of seen a little bit more balance throughout this league, a little bit more structure on the tactical side, how teams are playing. You know what I mean? So we've seen a lot of teams this year playing 3 in the back, or if you want to go with 5, whatever you want to call it. We've seen teams playing in this 4-2-2-2 right up the middle. So that gives the wing backs an opportunity to go forward. So I think it's been great. The growth of this league, the tactical side of it has been very cool to see how teams are adjusting every weekend to something a little different.
So we're going to do listener questions in another segment in the show, but I saved one to do in this part of the show.
Oh boy.
This is from, it's an easy one. It's more of a discussion.
It's not a wig. I promise you. It's not a wig. Okay.
This is from our buddy Tom Halleck. And Tom says, we are notoriously bad down the stretch. Would it be considered a low bar to have our best final 10 games ever this year? So for context, even in 2022, when Austin went on that run, In our
Yep.
last 10 games, we lost 5 of them.
Okay.
So we did not do great in the backstretch of even our good year, our only good year.
Okay.
And so,
But you didn't, what I'm saying to you is you didn't make MLS Cup, did you?
no, but
This is my point.
moving on to the rest of the question, looking at the back half of this season, the opponents Austin has left are Houston, Dallas, Montreal, San Jose, Kansas City, Dallas again, Minnesota, Seattle, RSL, St. Louis, LAFC, San Jose again.
All right.
Current
So the back half-
table, only 2 of those
Yeah.
teams are above us.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. In MLS, anybody can beat anybody at any time. We know this. It's just reality. You know what I mean? So I would say the front half of that last 10 games is a little lighter than that back half. The back half seems very difficult. So get your points where you can get them. And that means win all your home games.
Yeah.
That means win all your home games. You win your home. How many of the 10 are home?
Oh, geez. Several. Not all of them, but several.
I threw you a trick question. God.
I know Montreal's
So-
on the road. One of the Dallasons is at home.
Okay.
One's on the road.
Yeah.
Jeremiah, Seattle, home.
Home. Yep.
Home.
And
Okay, there you go.
LAFC, home, I think.
Okay. Well, that's the game that got canceled. So yes, that is at home, and So all right. So like I said, out of 10, you got to win the home games, and you've got to find a way to pick some points off on the road. 3 points, a point. How far can you go without a loss? Even if it's a tie, you don't want to lose. So you got to keep winning at home, tying on the road, winning on the home, winning on the road, picking off a game or two, and then all of a sudden you're sitting yourself. You're not in the knockout game. You're in the playoffs, and now if you do that, you're fighting for a home field advantage in the top 4. That's what everybody's shooting for, right? But again,
Austin FC fans would bite your hand off, Marcelo, if you offered that to us.
What?
For top 4.
Out of excitement. Yeah.
That's good. Listen, I'm an optimist. I look for always the best scenario. Why am I going to look at the worst scenario possible when you don't want that to happen? You want the best scenario possible. So you do the right things. You're fighting for a home field advantage, which gives you the advantage throughout the playoffs until you get to a point where you're playing maybe the number 2 seed or the number 1. But listen, you got to be optimistic. You got to believe in your team. You know what I mean? I'm a firm believer that you're going to have ups and downs in the season, but you can't give up on your team, because no matter what, the players feel it. And when you give up on the players, they feel it on the field. They know it and they can feel it. And you don't ever want that to happen, win or lose. And that's why people in Europe with that relegation, they're fighting till the end. Are they not screaming and yelling at their teams because they don't want them to go to relegation? But that's the way MLS needs to be. You need to support. I mean, you're going to be pissed off at your team. Let's be honest. You get pissed off at your team throughout the season, but man, you love your team. So at the end of the day, they gotta feel the love sometimes. Even when things are going down, you'd be surprised how a player can respond if he feels that energy from the stadium.
Yeah, I think Austin FC fans have, in our 4.5 years that we've had so far, we've done a good job learning of setting expectations while continuing to show the boys some love and bring support in the stadium. What I'm saying is, don't give us hope, Marcelo, because we're
gonna love him no matter what. We're gonna cheer for him and love for him.
If I'm not here to be negative Nelly, I'm here to say you have a good enough team to make the playoffs. And if you listen, I'll go back to 1997. Okay, we didn't have a great team. We picked up at the right time at the right place. Next thing you know, the Colorado Rapids, and people back then are like, how'd the Colorado get here? We beat Kansas City, which was the number 1 team. We beat Dallas. Next thing you know, we're in an MLS Cup final playing DC United in DC. So you always have hope. You just got to hope your team hits that moment. You know what I mean? And there's a moment in the season where you can just feel it as a player, that things are clicking, that things are moving right. The pass, even I misplayed that ball, it went to my teammate. I went to go shoot this ball, and I mishit it, and it went to my teammate, and he scored. That's the kind where you need at the end. You need that little bit of luck. You need that little bit of hope that you think you can win an MLS Cup. And next thing you know, who knows, man? That's the beauty of our league. Who knows?
That's why you never bet MLS.
I don't bet at all, but that 100%.
That is a thing we've said on the show, though. There early in the season when Brandon Vasquez and Mirto Uzuni were getting chance after chance after chance and could not finish them. There was me, one of the most like logical thinking, cynical people you'll ever meet. I was like, I think this team's cursed. I really think there's a curse. But
you know what? It's not a curse, man. It's not a curse. I'm telling you, forwards go through streaks. And eventually they fall out of that little bit of slump. And next thing you know, they're scoring goals left and right. Even if they're mishitting it, it's bouncing off this guy, it's going in. When I saw those guys, when I saw your team play at the beginning of the year, and I saw Brandon miss a few easy opportunities that he should score, I thought to myself, okay, you know what? At least he's in the right place at the right time. And if he keeps doing this, eventually that ball is going to get into the back of the net. And when he scores one, he'll score two. And when he scores two, there comes three, there comes four, there comes five. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, he got hurt. But the potential you guys have with Osuni and with Brandon when he was in, I mean, Osuni hasn't played well. Let's be honest. He hasn't played great at the beginning of the season, but now he's the man. He's got to find a way to put this team on his back and carry it.
And he's looked good the last couple of games and looks like he's starting to get some of that confidence. And I joke about the curse, but that is essentially what we came down to was it's about getting these guys to believe in themselves. And it looks like Mirto Uzuni is maybe finally starting to believe in himself.
Listen, it happens, man. Forwards are streaky, man. They go up and down, up and down. The beauty about being a forward is you can suck for 94 minutes. You score in the 95th minute, ain't no one going to say you sucked for 94 minutes. You're the king. So that's all it takes. 1 second, one play, and it's good to go.
All right. Anything else, Jeremiah?
No, I think, Marcelo, we wrote questions. We didn't ask like half of them. It was still an amazing it was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, man.
Is there one you want
so
to ask is there one you want to ask that you haven't?
No, I think we're good, man. I think we're good. You did great. I love the conversation every time.
We definitely enjoy ourselves, don't we?
Absolutely. All right, listeners, Marcelo will be on the call with Jorge Perez Navarro on Saturday. So listen to that if you want to hear it in Spanish. And then I'm not sure who's on the English call, but either way, whichever one you want to go with.
Colin and Ian Joy, I think it is, or Cal and Ian Joy.
All right. Can't go wrong then. Either way you want to go, it's going to be good. Marcelo, thanks. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you, fellas, for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. We want to thank Marcelo Balboa one more time. We want to thank our listeners for sending in the questions, our folks in the Patreon. We're going to get to whatever questions we didn't get to this week. We'll try to do them next week. So don't worry if you didn't hear your name. We'll be back next week to review the Houston Dynamo match and then preview the trip to Frisco to continue the Copa Tejas run and cover any other Austin FC news that comes up. Until then, I'm Lennon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Thank for nothing, you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Zula Chupa Boom sauce.
Yeah.